So welcome back again to Come and See Inspirations. My name is John Keeley. And in this part of the programme this morning, we're delighted to welcome onto the programme for the first time Dean Niall Sloane, who is the Dean of St Mary's Church of Ireland Cathedral in Limerick City. Good morning to you and welcome to our programme this morning.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me.
Thanks a lot for joining us this morning. Now you, I know you're going to chat to us about the 850-year celebrations and so on and so forth, but maybe people might be a little bit interested and see where you come from in your background and in terms of church circles and so on and so forth. Would you share that with us, please?
Absolutely. So I'm originally from County Cavan, from a village called Lochgowna, where the River Erne rises. I grew up in a shop and post office, which my parents still run in the village. I attended school in Longford before going to university in Dublin Trinity College. I was, after training in theological college, I was ordained by the Bishop of Connor at the time, Alan Harper, for the curacy of Aherton, Portstewart, which is right on the very north coast of Northern Ireland. Following the curacy there, I did a second curacy in Taney Parish in Dundrum, Dublin, which is the largest Church of Ireland parish in the Republic of Ireland. I spent 4 years there before being appointed rector of Holy Trinity Parish in Killiney, which is not too far away from Taney, near Dunleary. I was there for 5.5 years and then was appointed Dean of St Mary's Cathedral and rector of Limerick City Parish in August of last year, and then was installed in October of the same year.
And so you've been in ministry for about 23 years at this stage?
No, not quite.
Well, oh no, sorry, 2005, excuse me.
Maybe.
Sorry, excuse me, sorry gentlemen. Okay.
And ordained ministry for about 13 years.
13 years, excuse me, I got my addition incorrect. Yeah. Now, can I just ask you one thing? In the Catholic tradition, usually we have priests being transferred within a diocese. You've just mentioned to me that you started off in Northern Ireland, you ended up over in Dublin, and you come over to Limerick. How does that all work? You don't work within a diocese, or?
No, you are sponsored by a diocese. So I'm originally from Kilmore Diocese, but you, in being sponsored from a diocese, you are sponsored for the church, so the whole Church of Ireland, to serve in, so that there's necessarily no diocesan boundaries when it comes to serving in the church, that you serve the whole church rather than a particular diocese.
Okay, so
that's an interesting one, John. We should mention that to Bishop Brendan and see what he says.
And see what he comes up with. Now, just before sharing, just going through to the celebrations and so on and so forth that you're celebrating this particular year, it is, of course, St Mary, it is a living faith community. So therefore, you would have services there. Wouldn't that be correct?
We have services every day of the year, apart from St Stephen's Day and the New Year's Day, which we close for a little rest, but we've depending on a huge team of volunteers and those who help out, so we give them a little well-deserved rest. But we are open for worship every single day of the year, and there's a service of prayer every day as well in the cathedral.
And just what sort of format would the service maybe be used to of a Sunday, we'll say, for instance, now?
So on a Sunday we have, during term time, a choral service. We have very strong choral tradition in St Mary's. So every Sunday at 11:15, the choir, during term time, lead us in either choral matins, which is for morning prayer, a said service, or choral Eucharist, Holy Communion. They happen twice a month on the turn at Sundays. And then during the week it's morning prayer every morning apart from Thursday, which is a celebration of the Holy Communion as well.
Okay, and the sort of attendance at the services there?
It's mixed and varied. The person leading the service, they may be on their own, but important that they're surrounded by the angels and archangels, and they're praying and reminding the city and the community that even if there's only one there, that the whole city, the cathedral community, are being prayed for at that particular point. At other days it could be in the hundreds. It really depends on the Sunday in question and what's happening. If there's a baptism or a major festival, or if it's a diocesan event, as the Mother Church of the Diocese, St Mary's often holds diocesan services for the Diocese of Limerick and Killaloe.
And would you also have services particular for the young now, or would you have members of your congregation maybe in the teenage years, maybe involved with youth work and so on and so forth? Or
we have, depending on the case. We have very strong links with Villiers School, secondary school in Limerick City.
Okay.
So we host them for services at various times throughout the year. Children and of all ages, and in fact anybody of any age is very welcome at any or all of our services. There's not necessarily a particular focus on any age group in particular in the majority of our services, but it's very much seen that all our services are all age acts of worship.
Very good. And just before I just hand over that to Shane, the diocese is a pretty large diocese. I just looked at it in the map to just give people some idea.
So Diocese of Limerick and Killaloe is the largest Church of Ireland diocese in Killaloe. If you want, its full title is actually the Diocese of Limerick, Killaloe, Ardfert, Achadoe, Kilfenora, Kilmacduagh, Clonfert and Emily. So not something necessarily trips off the tongue. It stretches from Ballinasloe to Valentia, and from the Cliffs of Moher right into Roscrea and a little bit further. So it's basically counties Limerick, Kerry, Clare, South Galway, most of counties Tipperary, a little bit of Offaly, and a little bit of County Kerry, I think, as well.
I tell you, the bishop must have a tiring journey trying to visit all those parishes and all those various parts of the diocese.
Yeah, it's a good. Yeah, I think you have to like driving is probably one of the requirements of the bishop for the diocese.
Maybe that, or even a helicopter, one of the two.
It has been suggested.
Thanks for that, Niall. Shane, you'd like to touch base with Niall in regard to the celebrations that are happening this year?
Exactly. So one of the reasons we were inviting Dean Niall on this morning to the programme is the fact that St Mary's Cathedral this year celebrates its 850th anniversary, I suppose, or of foundation or consecration as the Cathedral of Limerick City. And of course, one of the ancient characteristics of a city was the fact that it either had a university or a cathedral. So, of course, that is one of the things that contributes to Limerick's title as a city, as well, of course, as its charter, plus the castle, of course, King John's Castle. But Dean Niall, just before we get into the whole thing about the 850th anniversary, I have a simpler question for you. What's a dean?
Yeah. A dean is, in effect, is a dean of a diocese as well as the cathedral. So, from the is the person, the cathedral or the bishop's seat. So each cathedral has a seat for the bishop, but the dean runs it on his behalf, along with the chapter, the members of the clerical body. But also the dean is the dean of the diocese. So I'm dean of the Diocese of Limerick. And in traditional terms, I suppose it's seen as the senior priest within the diocese.
Okay, so that explains that. But anyway, back to the 850th anniversary. So this year you've got a big celebration. Tell us about it.
Well, St Mary's Cathedral was gifted to the church in 1168 by King Donald More O'Brien, who was the last king of Munster. It was a royal palace, and he gifted his church in 1168, and since then it's been a continuous place of worship. It's one of the oldest buildings in Limerick. It's the oldest, we think, continuous place of worship, one of the oldest continuous places of worship in Ireland. It has also held a court in it. It's obviously been a venue for various events, but first and foremost, it's a place of Christian worship. And as part of our celebrations this year, we're using the opportunity to celebrate various aspects of civic, cultural, political life within the city of Limerick and beyond. Indeed.
And St Mary's, like St John's in many respects, both cathedrals, if you like, dominate the skyline of the city. And I continue myself being away and coming home and either coming down the motorway or flying in from Shannon. There are two of the landmarks. There's a couple of landmarks, but there are two of the landmarks that stand out when you're overviewing the city. And of course, St. Mary's is it's probably a familiar sight to people, but I suppose for many people, I suppose the question would be, have they ever actually been inside the door of it? And I suppose it's one of the challenges for us as Limerick people. Do we know our own history and our own local sites, our local historical sites? And St. Mary's is probably one of the ones which we would say to people, maybe it's one you should actually explore. Because as you said, it's one of the key buildings of the city. As you said, it's the oldest building, one of the oldest buildings in the city, next with the castle. And it's something, I suppose it's a common, would you say a common heritage to all people from Limerick?
Absolutely. Well, as I said, it was a palace, so it was where the kings of Munster resided, and the famous West Door, the Romanesque doorway that overlooks the Shannon, is tradition dictates that it's the only surviving part of that palace. And we have a little quirky tradition in the cathedral that it's only opened on very special occasions because of its historical significance. But as part of our programme for this year, we're literally and metaphorically opening the doors up to the city by welcoming people in. We're particularly conscious that many of the residents of Limerick City may not have even been in through the doors of the cathedral, and it's opening it up to those, but also to a wider context and to, as I said, various representative groups within the city.
So what type of events, what kind of things are you planning to celebrate this great anniversary?
Well, for various reasons, we've had a very short time frame to organise the 850th anniversary, so we've had to draw up a plan very quickly. And one of the things was we focused on 12 themes of the 12 months of each year. So in January with the launch, we began with a focus on community because it's very much art. And February we moved on to sport. This month, March, we're looking at tourism and so on throughout. And then interweaved with each of those months, there's a focus on a particular charity. So for tourism, we're looking at Limerick Tidy Towns, and they have cleanups going on. So that's part of the tourism scene within the city. In February, for example, I mentioned sport. We're looking at the Irish Injured Jockeys Association. And then we also have talks on figures associated with those particular themes. We also have one or two major events. I suppose the highlight are three musical events. In particular, we're welcoming the choir of King's College, Cambridge in July.
I heard that was the one that had caught my eye because I had seen that being advertised, and I was thinking to myself, I got to be back for that one. What other two have you planned?
We have the Sinfonia, Limerick Sinfonia Cathedral Choir with Encore concert. That's on the 21st of April. And then in May, on the 19th, we have the Three Choirs Festival, which is the cathedral choirs of St Finbarr's in Cork, St Canice's in Kilkenny, and St Mary's in Limerick. And this has been a tradition that started a few years ago, and we're building on that, and we're delighted that St Mary's are being able to host it this particular year, considering our anniversary celebrations.
Now, if people wanted to find out more about upcoming events that will be on in the cathedral over the next couple of months, where's the best place to find the information?
Well, you find us on Twitter and on Facebook. And if you want to log on to the website, stmaryscathedral.ie, under the events there, you'll find listings for all the events coming up throughout the year. And on a number of the big concerts or musical events, there's even access there to book tickets and secure your place. We're very conscious, looking at the King's College, Cambridge, that that's going to be probably a sellout event and a very popular event.
Mm-hmm.
So encourage the listeners to log on and keep on top of what's happening. There's also a commemorative brochure has been produced with the programme of events as well. So if you're around St Mary's or indeed other places in the city, I'm sure you'll be able to pick up a copy of that and keep it as a reference point at home.
Now, just going back to something you had said earlier, as the Dean of St Mary's and the Dean of the Diocese, and you're new to Limerick as well, in terms of the challenges facing the Christian community, but also the Church of Ireland community that's in Limerick, what would you say would be the things that would particularly you have learned about the community since you arrived, both the positives and the challenges that it faces?
Well, I think, like we all know, Limerick hasn't had the most positive uh,
Presentation.
Presentation, yeah. Outside of Limerick City, and coming from having worked in Dublin, certainly I heard that. But actually, what's really positive is that that's not my experience of coming to Limerick. I think it's a really lively city. I was describing to someone recently that it's unique in that it's big enough you can be anonymous in it, but it's small enough that everyone knows each other. I think there's wonderful opportunities in Limerick, the Opera Project, the three college university campuses, the hospital, engaging with things like the prison and the various businesses within the city. It's close to the Wild Atlantic Way, which I know something Bord Fáilte and ourselves and other tourism partners within the city are very excited about. Right beside Cliffs of Moher, Bunratty, Killaloe, not that far from Kerry. I think it's a really exciting place to be at a really exciting time in Limerick's history, and I'm delighted to be able to engage with that on many different levels.
And as a faith community, how do you see it in terms of, its health, if you like, or its participation? In terms of just as a faith community gathering together in the cathedral, as the cathedral of the diocese.
Well, obviously, the Church of Ireland is a very small community, not only within the Republic, but in Limerick itself as well. And we're mindful of that. However, we have a long history, 850 years within the city. As I said, prayers are offered up daily, and we included in our prayers are very conscious of our ecumenical partners. But for example, Bishop Brendan is prayed for frequently at our services. He's definitely a great friend and supporter of St Mary's. And through our celebrations this year, it's about, as a faith community, how we engage, how we reach out to the community, how we reach out to the city. We're welcoming tourists into the walls of the cathedral, and showing them that we are a living, breathing, worshipping community. We're engaging with those on the margins and assisting those who are maybe questioning their faith, maybe those who want to explore a little deeper. So we're experimenting, I suppose, maybe is one word for this year as well, within all that, but being faithful as well to the wonderful heritage we've built up. As I said, we have a fantastic musical tradition under the director of our choir master, Peter Barley, who's a well-known figure within Limerick music circles. So through that, through experimental liturgies, and even quiet prayer, and people can come in and light a candle as they're walking through. It's very much engaging with people's personal faith as well as the corporate worship.
Very good. So thank you, Niall, for coming on and telling us about the celebration that's, as you're in process for this year, 850 years of St Mary's as the cathedral of Limerick, as one of the cathedrals of Limerick City. Now, Niall, you had suggested to us a piece of music. John, what was it again?
Christ is made for the sure foundation. Isn't that right now?
That's right. Those of you who have been into St Mary's are struck by, and we hear frequently from visitors, that the walls, the rendo was stripped of them. So the various stones within the cathedral, from red brick to rubble to huge ornate carved stones. And this is a personal favourite hymn of mine. But when I look at the stones in the cathedral, you realise that the stories that those stones could tell, the craftsmen who put them in, those who have worshipped in the space, all the things that building has witnessed. So I think the hymn sums up that undergirding all that is the Christ as the cornerstone, as the foundation for all that we do and all that we are.
Thanks for that, Niall. And of course, the piece of music, Christ is Made, the sure foundation. This actually was a recording made in Westminster Abbey when actually Pope Benedict was there, and on September the 17th, 2010.